The highly anticipated new movie Golda tells the story of the 19 days of the Yom Kippur War in 1973 from the point of view of Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir, who is portrayed by Helen Mirren. The movie arrives in theaters August 25th. Today, we're chatting with Guy Nattiv, the Oscar-winning director of Golda. Guy, good to see you.
Good to see you too, man.
Where
Long
are we
time.
reaching? Are you in Israel today or?
No, in my house in LA.
Okay. Oh, welcome to the show. So, but as a native Israeli, you could have told any story about Israel. I'm curious why you decided to choose this chapter in Israeli history and Golda Meir to make a movie about.
Well, I didn't decide to make a movie about it. This was a script that already written, and it was an Amazon project. It started as an Amazon project, and I was kind of came to this project as an open assignment for looking for directors. So I competed for this movie, and when I joined this kind of a project, the script was 250 pages. It was a massive war movie, um, tank, tanks exploding and massive stuff going on, and Golda was only just a small part of it, I would say. And then when we lost majority of the budget because of the pandemic, it became a smaller movie. And then they asked me after I got the job, what do you want to do with it right now? How do you want to approach the movie? And I said, well, I grew up on film from the 70s, The Conversation with Coppola, um, Das Boot, films that are really like a one location movie that are based on sound, also Blowout with Brian De Palma film. These are films that influenced me a lot, and I thought it would be a great way of approaching those 10 days in the war as how Golda experienced that. She stayed on in those four walls in with her commanders, and I thought that would be great to approach this as kind of a character piece, um, and to go under Golda's skin, and that's what drove me into telling the story in a more unique way and not your typical biopic.
Yeah. I'm really curious to hear what was your imagination of Golda Meir growing up, knowing about her as this kind of mythic figure in a lot of ways, but also a real person, and how your understanding of her changed with the work that you did on this project?
It's a great question, actually, because I was born into this war. And, there was a famous song in Israel, We Are the Children of 73. You promised us dove with a uh, with an olive branch, and then there was and nothing happened. You promised us that there wouldn't be any war when we grow up.
Hmm.
So I grew up on this myth of Golda that was basically a name on my school, and a statue and a stamp, and just I didn't know much about her, but I think I started to know more when all the protocols came out from the war and the government meetings and the pit, and the protocols from the pit and from the Agrat committee. Things started to pop 10 years ago, and we understood a lot about Golda that I didn't know as a kid. So suddenly I saw Golda in a different light. And speaking to her grandson Gideon, and speaking to Meron Mezzini, her press secretary, who's still alive, was 91, I got a different Golda suddenly, more human Golda. So yeah, I discovered a lot during making this movie,
W-
about who she was and how she dealt with stuff.
You mentioned something about 10 years ago. Was there some documents that were classified and then became released? Is that what you're
Yeah,
referring
yeah.
to?
It was so every Yom Kippur, Yediot Achronot, or any other paper just came out with another revelation of protocols, of secret protocols from the war. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that got her that censored, basically off. And that's how the entire country understood. Wait, it's not only Golda who was in charge of everything and was, because there was a paper in the 70s, kind of on the front page of Haaretz, or I think Ha'olam Hazeh, you had Golda's photo, like a big giant, like close up, and it says the debacle.
Mhm.
And she was the scapegoat. It was easy to blame her, and also she took responsibility and resigned. But when the protocols came out, we understood it wasn't really her only. There was a whole slew of people and commanders that were dysfunctional.
Which leads to my next question. The movie is not necessarily a love letter to Golda or Israel. It shows both the flaws of both Golda and Israel. Why was that an important aspect for you to highlight?
It's a great question. I didn't want to do a propaganda movie like Exodus from the 50s or 60s. That's not my goal. I didn't want to do also something naive and you know I want to look, I just met Oliver Stone in Jerusalem, and a film festival, and I grew up on his films. I grew up on his, like, the hard look at the war. JFK was one of the films that really influenced me. Platoon, Born on the 4th of July. I mean, these films really touched like the nerves of this country, and he did it so beautifully and fearless look. So that's what I wanted to go. I wanted to go in with open eyes and see that this is about hubris. This is about a country that came from the 6 Day War, like we are the king of the world, and they got a giant slap, you know and that's kind of like reshuffle the whole term of Israel in the Middle East, in a way.
Yeah.
Who are we? And then Golda was also a missed opportunity because she was a really refusenik. She said no to everyone, even to Sadat, who wanted to make peace with her before, or she was very suspicious, right?
Yeah.
When she saw the peace treaty with Begin and Sadat, she was on her deathbed, and she said, "Oh, they need an Oscar. They need to get an Oscar," because she didn't believe it's real. So it's a different generation. She's a tragic character with a lot of good sides too. So it's a flawed character, and I love flawed characters in my movies.
Mm-hmm.
I am so curious to hear your perspective on the current moment in Israel. Speaking of flawed characters and hubris and a moment of identity crisis and determination for Israel, do you feel like this is in some ways repeating these identity questions that Israel has had since its beginning, or is there something really distinct about this moment? I mean, hundreds of thousands of people out in the streets is certainly not something that you see very often in Israel, but what are you making of this current moment?
Do you want my honest question? My honest answer?
Of course.
Of course.
I truly think this is the Yom Kippur of democracy. I myself went to demonstrate with my dad, who's a Yom Kippur veteran. I met other Yom Kippur veterans who said this is the Yom Kippur of democracy. I think that Benjamin Netanyahu is leading us to a big, it's tragedy. And we have to, and the government becomes so extreme, and surrounded with extreme people, that we, the other side, the other half, we need to protect this country and what we built for so many years. I'm not even talking about the Palestinian question that needs to be answered and dealt with, and millions of people that live under occupation. This is another subject that we need to deal with, because it's also it's not dealing with it will bring to explosion. But I'm talking about that we're eating ourselves from within. And so for me, yes, it's kind of like a crazy cycle, in a way, that it's again the Yom Kippur, this day, the D-Day of our democracy, when they tell Benjamin Netanyahu, listen, the army is in trouble, but it says everything is okay. everything is cool, and the judicial system, at least Golda believed and trusts the judicial system, the high court. And so it make me miss the leaders that I grew up on, Rabin, Shimon Peres, people with integrity, people that had at least they wanted a democracy. And now we're heading towards Poland and Turkey and Hungary. So I think I'm very concerned. Seeing it from afar, it's even more crazy. But it makes me wanna go there and demonstrate with my brothers and sisters.
What lessons from Golda can today's leaders in Israel learn from?
I think that you can learn a lot from the Yom Kippur War, from the whole hubris, from the see no evil, hear no evil. It's like that's why I used a lot of smoke in the movie as well, because it's the smoke in your eyes. You cannot see from 1 meter, they cannot see each other, they cannot see the warnings, they're smoking themselves to death in a way. But I think that if you look at the Yom Kippur War and you see what's going on today, there's huge comparisons. And I think that we need to wake up before it's too late.
What does that look like for the average Israeli, or for you as someone who works through art? Like what does that look like, that next step?
What do you mean?
Like what does it look like to actually engage on what's happening in Israel right now as not a leader or a prime minister?
As an Israeli, or as an Israeli that lives in the States, because it's completely different.
Yeah, I mean both. But what are you doing and engaging right now?
I'm posting a lot about that. I'm using my social influence in a way to post stuff. I'm getting a lot of also backlash for me posting about stuff. But I'm using my voice. I'm using my voice to fight for Israel that I grew up on with.
Yeah. I'm curious about you've your previous movie Skin, which won the Oscar for Best Short Film in 2018, was about neo-Nazis. This one's about the Israeli Prime Minister. You made a series with your wife about infertility. Such a wide variety of topics. How do you choose which projects to work on?
Whatever speaks to me personally. You know what I mean? Every project, my next project in Venice is called Tatami. It's about this Iranian judoka who goes to win the world champion in Tbilisi, and she needs to face the Israeli, and she's getting threats from her country not to do that because the Zionist traitor is. And she decided to go and to refuse the Iranian government, and she's paying the price for that. So that's a project that I did with Zara Ibrahimi, who won Best Actress in Cannes for Holy Spider. So that's something that it's another angle for me. But if you look at the top shot of what I do, is basically a project that deal with social or political aspect. I care about this world, and I think that it's a fine line between entertainment and what we say about this world. Again, films from the 70s that I grew up on have this social element. Norma Ray, Network, 3 Days of the Condor, The Falcon and the Snowman. It's films that say something about the world we live in. That's what drives me right now. Me and my wife, obviously.
When we spoke, speaking of future projects, when we spoke a few years ago, you told me about another movie you were potentially making about your grandmother, a Holocaust survivor, who decided to leave Israel and join a cult in Virginia. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, called Harmonia. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that still on the back burner?
Yeah. It's that's my next movie, but there's a strike right now, so we are all in a holding pattern.
Right.
But yeah, the cast is ready to go, and we're just waiting for it to. Yes, that's my next project.
I can't wait for that.
My most personal movie. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Guy, thank you so much for taking the
Thank you.
time
Appreciate
to
it.
chat with us. Really, it's good to see you.
Yes, thank you.
Good to see you too. Bye, Laura. Bye, Benjamin. Bye.
Bye-bye.